In the winter of 1241, Europe experienced a miracle. But it wasn't a military victory. It wasn't a brilliant strategy. It was a death. The Mongol Horde, the most lethal military machine in human history, had just obliterated the combined armies of Poland and Hungary. They were at the gates of Vienna. The Holy Roman Empire was next. France was bracing for the end. England was so terrified they didn't even try to send help. Europe was standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into the abyss of total extinction. And then, they vanished. The Mongols turned their horses around and rode back to the east. Why? Because the great Khan, Ogedei, had died. By Mongol law, every commander had to return to the capital to choose a new leader. Europe was saved by a stroke of pure blind luck. But what if that luck never happened? What if Ogedei survived? What if Genghis Khan himself had lived another 20 years? Welcome to the Erased Timeline. Today we explore a reality where the Mongol war machine never stopped, a timeline where the Renaissance never happened, the United States never existed, and the map of the modern world is completely, terrifyingly unrecognizable. To understand this erased timeline, we have to look at what almost was. In our timeline, the Mongols under Subutai, the greatest general you've never heard of, were scouting Vienna. They had crushed European heavy cavalry using fake retreats, smoke screens, and coordinated flanking maneuvers that wouldn't be seen in Europe until Napoleon. In our alternate timeline, without the recall to Mongolia, Subutai spends the winter of 1241 resting his horses. By spring 1242, the invasion resumes. Vienna falls in weeks. The heavy stone castles of Europe, which historians thought would save them, become useless. The Mongols were masters of siege warfare. They had absorbed Chinese and Persian engineers. They would build counterforts around European castles, starving them out, or use massive trebuchets to reduce stone walls to rubble. Picture it from inside those walls. For 1,000 years, a castle had meant safety. Thick stone, a deep moat, a winter's worth of grain. Against the Mongols, none of it mattered. They diverted rivers to flood the foundations. They flung diseased corpses over the battlements to spread plague. They drove captured villagers ahead of their own assault lines as living shields, forcing knights to cut down their own people just to reach the enemy. And a city that dared to resist was never simply captured. It was made an example of, burned to the ground, its people slaughtered to the last child, so that the next city would open its gates without a fight. The Pope in Rome calls for a new crusade. But this isn't a fight for Jerusalem. This is a fight for survival. In 1243, the Holy Roman Emperor gathers the largest army Europe has ever seen, meeting the Mongols at the Battle of the Rhine. It is a slaughter. European knights, weighed down by heavy armor, are picked apart by Mongol horse archers, firing armor-piercing arrows. The Rhine runs red. The emperor is killed, and his head is placed on a spike, paraded through the ruins of Cologne. By 1245, Paris is burning. The French king flees to England, but it doesn't matter. The Mongols reach the coast. They don't even need a navy to conquer England. They simply demand tribute. A starving, isolated England surrenders without a fight. Within 5 years, the political and religious structure of Western Europe is erased. But here is the twist. In this alternate timeline, the Mongols don't just destroy, they build. History remembers the Mongols as mindless barbarians, but that is propaganda written by the people they conquered. In reality, the Mongol Empire operated on a strict code of laws, religious tolerance, and an obsession with trade. Once Europe is pacified, a Pax Mongolica, a Mongol peace, descends over the entire Eurasian landmass. In our timeline, the Silk Road eventually fractured, but in this timeline it thrives uninterrupted. A merchant could travel from Lisbon to Beijing with nothing but a silver passport. safe from bandits under the threat of Mongol retribution. But this creates a massive historical paradox. Yes, trade booms, ideas flow, but the specific spark that lit the European Renaissance, the independent wealth of Italian city-states, the competition between European kingdoms, is gone. There is no Spain and Portugal competing for sea routes to India. Why would they? The Mongols already control the land route. And think about what that really means. No race for a new world, no Spanish galleons, no Portuguese caravels, no Dutch trading companies. The entire engine of European expansion, the thing that in our timeline would go on to plant flags on 5 continents and reshape the whole human race, simply never switches on. Why risk everything on a desperate voyage into an empty ocean when a safe, paved, Mongol-guarded road already carries the silk and spice of the East straight to your door? Therefore, the age of discovery never happens. Christopher Columbus is never born, or if he is, he's a low-level merchant walking to a Mongol-controlled trading post in the Middle East. No European power sails west, which means the Americas remain untouched by Europe. Let's jump across the Atlantic. In 1492, our timeline saw Columbus arrive, bringing disease, conquest, and colonization. In the erased timeline, the year 1492 passes like any other. The Aztec Empire continues its brutal, magnificent expansion in Mesoamerica. The Inca Empire stretches further down the Andes, but they aren't alone forever. Because while Western Europe never expands, the Mongols eventually do what they do best. They adopt the tech of the conquered. By the 1500s, the Mongol administration, now a hybrid of European, Middle Eastern and Asian cultures, commissions a massive naval expedition, not to find new land but to map the Pacific for trade. After months at sea, their lookouts spot land. They hit the west coast of North America, not from the east, like the Europeans in our timeline, but from the west, sailing in off the Pacific. The contact is devastating, but different. The Mongols don't want to convert the natives to a religion, and they don't want to build farming colonies. They want tribute, furs, gold, and exotic goods. The Native American populations are hit by eastern diseases, but the Mongols, used to managing vast, diverse populations, integrate the surviving tribes into their trade network, rather than wiping them out. Fast forward to the 18th century. North America is a patchwork of independent indigenous confederacies paying tribute to a Mongol viceroy in California. There is no United States, no English language, no constitution. So, what does the world look like today? In this timeline, the center of global power never shifted to London and Washington. It remained firmly in the East. The capital of the world is Karakoram, or perhaps a sprawling, hypermodern metropolis built on the ruins of Beijing. The dominant language of global trade isn't English. It's a Creole mix of Mongolian, Chinese, and Persian. Children in Sao Paulo and Cairo and Manila grow up learning it the way children in our world learn English, not because anyone forced them, but because it is the language of money, of science, of power. And the world's faiths look nothing like ours. Because the Mongols never destroyed the religions they conquered, they simply taxed them all equally. There was never a single dominant church. Christianity survives, but as one small sect among hundreds, sharing the same crowded marketplace of gods as Buddhism, Islam, and the old sky worship of the steppe. No single faith ever conquered the globe. Europe is a backwater. Think of Eastern Europe in the 1990s, a collection of impoverished, culturally rich but globally irrelevant states. They still have their beautiful cathedrals, but they are maintained as tourist attractions for wealthy Asian and Middle Eastern travelers. Technologically, the world is actually more advanced in some areas and behind in others. Without the brutal world wars of the 20th century, because a unified Mongol empire prevents massive global conflicts, millions of scientists, artists, and engineers don't die in trenches. The Industrial Revolution happens later, around 1900, because slave labor and tribute were so cheap there was no need to invent steam engines. But once it starts, driven by Mongol demand for faster global logistics, technology explodes. By the present day, the world is unified under a single planetary administration, a descendant of the Great Khanate. There is no United Nations. There is only the Khan. Space travel is a joint venture, not a Cold War competition. Mongolian flags are planted on the moon by 1980. It's easy to look at the horrors of our own history. The Crusades, the World Wars, the colonization of the Americas, and wonder if things would have been better. But in this erased timeline, the survival of Genghis Khan's bloodline created a world of absolute order at the cost of Western identity. A world of peace built on the ashes of Paris and Rome. The next time you walk through a European city or celebrate the 4th of July, remember this: you only exist because in 1241, one man, thousands of miles away from the battlefield, happened to die at the exact right moment. History is not a story of destiny. It is a story of miraculous, terrifying coincidences. If you want to explore more erased timelines, make sure to hit that subscribe button. What timeline should we erase next? The fall of Rome? The Cold War? Let me know in the comments below. I'll see you in the next timeline.